There are so many websites out there talking about massive weight loss surgeries for women with breast surgeries and BBLs and tummy tucks, etc. And there's not as much information out there for guys. For the reason that is just even in 2025, we still don't get as much plastic surgery as women do, and so we don't get quite the same love out there in terms of education. One thing that's really important is that wherever you go, whether it's myself or another one of my colleagues that does these surgeries, you really want to make sure that you find somebody that works with men quite a bit, because it is not the same surgery. The tailoring is very different, and the aesthetic result that you're trying to get is very, very different, right? If you think about it, a man getting weight loss surgery to get a masculine shape is not going to be looking for the same type of changes that a female may be, right? We don't want to achieve the same type of hourglass contour with rounded hips and buttocks. We're not trying to achieve the same type of chest fullness. We're trying to achieve something completely different. We want a V taper. We want a sleek and smooth trunk. We want a flattened sculpted chest. We want a highlight around the pec. We don't necessarily want a round breast, right? So, what are the things that are then really critical? Is number one is obviously your recovery from a tummy tuck is going to be much, much faster than most of the stuff you read about online, because usually for guys, we don't need to do a muscle repair. If you have a hernia, if you had a significant amount of weight loss that now the abdominal wall is just that loose, sometimes we'll still do that muscle repair, but most of the time we're able to get away without it. Number one. Number two, the tailoring of the skin for the tummy tuck is totally different, because for a guy, we cannot have the sides of the scar come up high, right? Because we need to be able to put it low so that you can just wear your boxer briefs, or you can wear your swim trunks, and it's going to be totally hidden at all times. So the tailor needs to be a little bit different, which means that we also need to do some really precise liposuction in all those areas to avoid you having a muffin top. And those love handles need to get emptied out completely so that we really get a perfectly sleek appearance and as much of that V taper as we possibly can. We can also obviously do, ab sculpting and all those things at the same time, per your discretion. In terms of the chest, what's important about the chest is that there are a number of different options to address it. If there's a significant amount of skin where it almost looks like a breast, we'll probably be talking about doing a true skin excision procedure where you end up with basically like a boomerang type of scar, with a scar also around the areola. That gets us the ability to get rid of the maximum amount of skin and make things really nice and tight, but at the cost of the scar. Much of the time, I try to be a minimalist about that, because that's not a scar you can really hide very well, even if it fades nicely. So I try to see if we can get away without that by maybe doing a gynecomastia surgery where we get rid of the gland, we do some liposuction, we maybe do some skin tightening and some vaser to just get the skin to just sock down to the chest and just contract on its own. And much of the time, we're actually able to get away with just that and avoid a scar that's visible on the chest. But that's not everybody. Again, that's something that we'll have to discuss when we see each other in person. In general, those are the things that are the most different. In terms of facial aesthetics, the big difference comes when we're just talking about facelift tailoring. And you can see that on my website about the male facelift, just because, again, we have to be thoughtful about the beard and the facial hair pattern that we have. So we don't pull the beard over onto the ear or do something silly like that. And so some of those fine details start to come into play. But in general, I just want you to be aware that you want to find somebody that's going to be familiar with working with a masculine population and creating that type of appearance, because, again, it is really not at all the same as trying to create a feminine appearance. The tailoring is different, the liposculpture is different, and the approach is quite different. As always, go ahead and take a look through the rest of the website, and look through my Instagram, reach out, talk to us. I want to make sure that whether it's with myself or any one of my colleagues, you find somebody that's going to be able to help you reach your goals and ultimately make you happy.